For this project, I'm building a shoe shelf for my wife. I have some leftover alder that I needed to do something with, and figured this would be a perfect project for that. It'll be painted, so I don't have to worry about stain or anything else, and so I think the alder would be perfect for this. I decided instead of going with solid shelves, I wanted to put slats in it just to help with keeping things a little bit cleaner and not having as much that she's going to have to clean up with if there's dirt or dust on her shoes. And here I'm getting the slats and the frame for the shelves cut out and getting those ready to be assembled. We have a fairly limited space to work with as far as where the shoe shelf is intended to go. It's not something we could be able to find online that would work with the dimensions and the constraints that we have. So this is one of the reasons I decided to build one. Now that all the slots are cut out, I can be able to verify how they're going to fit in there, get the spacing set correctly, and make sure that what I have in mind is actually going to work, and make sure that I actually measure things out correctly. I decided to use the box joint jig that I have to cut out the dados so that the slots are going to sit into. I think the next time I do this, I'm actually going to set up the dado stack and do it that way, because I think I'll get a little bit cleaner of a cut and it'll be a little bit easier. The first pass I'm going through is setting up the initial spacing for the first slat, and then you'll see me cut the rest of the frame out for the other slats to complete the bottom of the shelf. Now that all the dados are cut out, I can do another test fit and just get everything lined up, make sure where everything's at, and start getting everything ready to glue up. Here I am boxing in all of the slots so I can be able to get them sanded down instead of doing one at a time. This allows me to sand the entire surface of all of them once. Then I can rotate them 90 degrees, repeat the process, and do that on all four sides. That way I'm able to get all four sides sanded, get them all nice and neat, and I don't have to worry about trying to figure out how to sand in between the slots once I get the shelves put together. I got the frames glued up off camera. I ended up changing how I decided to glue those up like 3 or 4 different times before I found one that actually worked. And here I am getting all the slots put in. I've got wax paper between my work surface and the bottom of this shelf, and I'm simply going to glue all of the slots in, get them all stacked together, and then I'm going to put some weight on top of it just to get everything nice and compressed and keep everything flat and even while it dries. The weights that I use are actually leg supports or leg weights for an outdoor awning, and I was given those quite a while ago to see if they would actually work, and they actually work out very wonderfully because I can stack them, and they have small pins that you can use to orientate them and keep them held together. Now that the shelf pieces are dry, I can be able to get the legs put together. I'm using a simple end joint on the legs to give a 90-degree angle, and then I'm using spacers that I'm putting in to pin the shelves in place and provide the spacing that I need between the shelves. And as I get these spacers set, I am putting some 16 gauge brad nails into them just to hold them in place and give them a little bit of security while the glue dries. Even though it's probably not necessary, I just like having that in place just to make sure nothing moves on me and I don't have to keep everything clamped all the time. Now that the spacers are set, I've got everything sanded down, the shelves, the top, the legs, and now we can actually start assembling this. Because it's being painted, it gave me a little more freedom to fill in a few little gaps and mistakes with wood filler or a combination of wood glue and sawdust, which is what I prefer using for touching up anything that needs to be touched up. And gluing this up is just as simple as getting each of the shelves put into the slots that were created with the spacers, getting everything lined up and clamping it down. after letting the glue set just a few minutes just to get a little bit tacky and still give a little bit of room to work with, I realized that the shelf was a little bit out of square, so I had to reposition it, and I'm using clamps to bring it into square and even things out. And obviously right there I accidentally popped the leg off, so had to re-glue that, get that reset. But I was able to bring everything to a 90 degrees, both laterally and vertically, and be able to get everything straightened out so it was all nice and even. The diagonal clamps you see clamped to the front of my workbench and to the back of this is what allowed me to bring that into square and just make sure everything was completely even. And then all I had to do is retrim the bottom of the legs so that everything was at the right length, and put a slight chamfer on them so that it was easier to move them if they ever end up on a solid surface. And now it's time to paint this. I have this paint booth thing that I picked up a few years ago. It's been extremely helpful, especially with painting in the garage for smaller projects. It just keeps everything contained, and I don't have to worry about a lot of any overspray getting anywhere. I'm using a black cabinet paint. This is actually designed for kitchen cabinets. It dries within a couple of hours, so where it's not tacky, and it almost matches the dresser in the bedroom that this is sitting up against. Here we have the final shelf. Now the paint is dry and everything is finished. I'll be able to take this inside, get it put in place, and hopefully my wife likes it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.